A Jeffrey Epstein confidant has everybody worried. Congress wants to throw a whole lot more money at you for very little reason at this point. Redskins merchandise disappears from the NFL shop, and Bethesda is about to fuck up again. I'm Jay Edgar. Happy Independence Day, and this is Contemporary. You'd think going into a holiday we'd have a little bit less news here, and you'd think it'd be a slow day, but it actually was a pretty busy day coming up into all of this here. And yeah, I mean, I struggled for just a little bit to find news stories, but then I realized that there was still more going on. So, as always, we've got a ton to get to today, but before we get started, head on over to freedomscoop.com. Freedomscoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. We've got my show, we've got the Daily Ignoramus. We have got the Know Nothing Party over there too. Make sure you go over there and check out Steven's music. We've got the Generational Gap, which will be coming up later on today. We've got Wyatt Birkenhoff, who's, I believe, going to be posting a stream yet today as well. We've got the R-Rated Conservative, who's also doing an early show today coming up. And keep your eye out for the Freckles and Brit show as well. So come over, check us all out. We've got plenty of swag there if you want to come and get your freedom swag. And we've got some new changes coming up to the site as well. Looks like we're getting a full ground-up rebuild of the site coming into the election. So it'll all look good. It'll all look great. And hopefully we won't have any more technical glitches, but that's technology. Sometimes it happens. All right, before we get into the news, I wanted to point out the fact that there are 3 hours left on this Twitter poll here that we've got going on here. But it looks like, for the most part, the people of the world, or at least that follow me on Twitter, are more afraid of Kamala Harris being on the Supreme Court than in the vice presidency. And that is by far. I was a little bit surprised to see that, especially with the comments coming in that's saying that the vice presidency is pretty much the presidency at this point, and the woman is a police officer and a dictator. So I was a little surprised by the poll results, but the polls speak. So that's what it is. All right, let's get into the stocks. So it looks like the Dow had a pretty good start, where they had a pretty good jump off the futures, and then it just kind of faltered throughout the day. We still closed above where we were going to be, or where we were the day before, rather, not where we were going to be. Wow, that makes a lot of sense. It's like Bill and Ted did the stock market. We still closed above where we were the day before, but not by very much, especially compared to some of the edge that we had over here. So we have that going on. Keep in mind, the American markets are closed today in observance of the Independence Day holiday, so make sure that you go over there and check out what your futures are going to be, but we're not going to see anything and any more motion officially until Monday. All right, let's get into the stock advice here from Investors Business Daily. Dow Jones Futures Coronavirus Stock Market Rally fades, but 4 new breakouts. What's next for Tesla? From Ed Carson. Dow Jones Futures were little changed early Friday, along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures. The coronavirus stock market rally faded into Thursday's close, though the major indices had a strong week. Tesla soared on second quarter delivery figures, while Akamai Technologies, Teladoc Health, Taiwan Semiconductor, and Atlassian all cleared buy points. After the close, Regeneron Pharmaceuticals fell on weak results for a possible coronavirus treatment. Tesla stock held the bulk of Thursday's gains, capping a huge week for itself and other electric vehicle plays such as NIO. Looking ahead, second quarter Tesla earnings results could spur S&P 500 index to add Tesla stock. Beyond that, Tesla faces no production constraints, but questions about future demand remain. Teladoc stock cleared 2 buy points Thursday, while Akamai stock blasted to a new high. Taiwan Semiconductor stock also broke out past a clear buy point. Atlassian stock cleared an early entry just below an official buy point from a brand new flat base. On the downside, Regeneron and partner Sanofi fell late Thursday. Both Regeneron stock and SNY stock had closed near buy points. Tesla stock, Team stock, Teladoc stock, and are all on IBD leaderboard. TSM stock is on the IBD 50 along with many other semiconductor companies. And just in case you missed it up at the top of the page, IBD does want to wish you a happy 4th of July as well. And give you 2 months of IBD Digital for free. So, just in case you missed that. The Dow Jones Futures dipped 0.15% versus fair value. The S&P 500 Futures fell a fraction. NASDAQ 100 Futures climbed 0.2%. Dow Jones Industrial Average Futures trade until 1 p.m. on Friday, then resume trading at 6 p.m. Sunday. Dow Jones Futures trading may be relatively muted with U.S. stock exchanges closed Friday in observance of the 4th of July holiday, but stock markets in Asia, Europe, and elsewhere are open. Remember, overnight and over the weekend, by the way, too, action in Dow Futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. I wonder how oil's going to do. I'm genuinely curious about that, how oil is going to do coming up here in the next week or so, because, I mean, when you sit back and you look at it, everybody's going to be out traveling, and gas has come down fairly considerably where I live. I don't know where it's at where you guys live, but where I live, gas has come down fairly considerably. So go and check out what the stocks have to say. We're going to look at a counterpoint here from CNBC. Stocks rise after better than expected jobs report to close out winning week. From Fred Imbert and Thomas Frank over at CNBC. Maybe. Apparently that webpage is frozen again. It did that to me yesterday too. I don't know what CNBC is doing. Maybe they're pissed that I use an ad blocker. Who knows? Stocks rose Thursday following a better than expected U.S. jobs report as the economy tries to recover from the coronavirus pandemic. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed 92.39 points higher, or 0.4%, at 827.36. The NASDAQ Composite hit a record high, climbing 0.5% to 10,207.63. The S&P 500 also gained 0.5% to end the day at 3130.01. Boeing contributed to the gains, rising 0.6% after the airplane maker completed recertification flights for its grounded 737 MAX jet. Thursday's gains led to strong weekly performances for the major averages. The Dow rose 3.3% this week, and the S&P 500 climbed 4% in the same time period. It was the Dow and the S&P 500 biggest weekly gain since June 5th. The NASDAQ posited its best weekly performance since May 8th, jumping 4.6% this week. U.S. markets will be closed on Friday for the July 4th holiday. Wall Street started the session with sharp gains after the government reported that a record 4.8 million jobs were created in June. Economists were expecting 2.9 million jobs were created. The unemployment rate fell to 11.1 from 13.3. Economists were expecting a rate of 12.4 according to the Dow Jones. Another major surprise here in terms of the market expectations, said Christian Sherman, U.S. economist at DWS. What we've seen in May and June is a blueprint for a fast recovery, but only once the virus situation is under control. Last month, economists forecast a loss of 8 million jobs in May, and the economy gained 2.5 million payrolls instead. And, I mean, there's good news and bad news for this. One of the counterpoints that I saw for this came from Twitter from my upcoming co-host, Elaine Joan, the redheaded libertarian, who pointed out the fact that, yes, these are, for the most part, jobs being refilled after they were all lost through the coronavirus pandemic and the market crash that followed. And yes, that is true. And yes, for the most part, I would say that that is somewhat bad news. But I'm always positive when people go back to work, no matter what the situation is. When people stop being on unemployment and go to work for either the first time or the first time in a while, I think that's a good thing. So we're not creating new jobs. That's true. But people are going back to work. People are being able to go out and buy things and participate in the economy. So there's an up and a down to it. So we've got a great country full of entrepreneurs and people that want to go to work and people that want to sell you stuff. So we've got one of the best recipes for a great recovery. And we'll see it happen, and we'll see what's going to happen out of this. All right, let's look at the big news for the day. So first we will read from NBC4 out of New York, and then we'll read a little bit of why this is important. But from Jonathan Deinst, Joe Valaquette, is that how you pronounce that? And Tom Winter, and Sarah Fitzpatrick. Wow, 4 people on this one here. Jeffrey Epstein confidant Ghislaine Maxwell arrested on sex abuse charges. Ghislaine Maxwell, the British socialite and heiress who became a confidant of disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein and was later implicated in his alleged sexual crimes, has been arrested by the FBI. She was arrested in Bradford, New Hampshire around 8:30 a.m. on Thursday on charges she conspired with Epstein to sexually abuse minors. She was found living at a reclusive $1 million luxury home with 156 acres of rural mountainside property, federal prosecutors said. In a brief electronic appearance in the New Hampshire federal court Thursday afternoon, a judge remanded her to custody of the U.S. Marshals and ordered her transfer to New York City. She did not enter a plea, and her attorney indicated he will seek a detention hearing in New York, a prelude to a possible bail request. That's a little bit ballsy considering everything that went on with this. The 6-count indictment in Manhattan federal court alleges that Maxwell helped Epstein groom girls as young as 14 years old. Going back as far as 1994, prosecutors say she was in the room during and took part in the sexual abuse of 3 underage girls at Epstein's Upper East Side townhouse, his Florida estate, and his ranch in New Mexico. She faces up to 35 years in prison. This case against Ghislaine Maxwell is a prequel to the earlier case we brought against Jeffrey Epstein. Acting Manhattan U.S. Attorney Audrey Strauss said at the news conference on the indictment, the FBI said that it had been tracking her movement for some time, though she was not indicted until June 29th. And the R-rated conservative actually pointed something out last night that I had completely missed on this, because I hadn't really read into the article yet by the time he pointed this out, but the woman was arrested in New Hampshire and remanded down to New York, Southern District of New York to be precise, where they had just fired a federal court judge, a district court judge if I'm not mistaken, SDNY judge. So they had just fired a district court judge and put the new acting U.S. Attorney Audrey Strauss in place. Which means I'm wondering if this particular judge had something on him where he couldn't objectively try this case. I wonder if this if there's involvement there somewhere. Now, I'm not going to come out and say that's true until I know more details about the case, but just the timing of all of this kind of makes you wonder about what happened there. All right. And by the way, I do want to point out that I do read the chat after everything comes out of here, and because I read the chat, this was first brought to my attention by Ron Helton over in the chat, because he had said about 10 minutes before I went off the air that this had happened. So thank you, chat, for keeping this going. All right. The daughter of British media baron Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine was the one-time girlfriend of Epstein's and was at the high-flying investor's side for decades. But she also alleged to have helped Epstein groom teen girls for sex with the rich and powerful. One of these teens, Virginia Roberts Giuffre, I think that's how you pronounce that, leveled that charge against Maxwell in a 2015 defamation suit, as have a number of other women since. And once again, I'm going to drop this in the Discord because it appears that we have the entire case sitting here. So thanks NBC New York, by the way, for putting this in here, but it looks like the entire complaint is here for you to read in its entirety, and I'm not going to do that on the air, but I do plan to do that over the weekend here while I'm doing some work. I want to take some time and read the entire complaint. So, yeah, absolutely, go ahead, and I'll put this up in the Discord for you guys to go and check out. I think it's already there, actually, because I think I dropped it there right after I found out about this. So, it's there. Go ahead and check out the complaint, and let's see what Fox News has to say about this. Author says Jeffrey Epstein's friends are probably pretty terrified after Ghislaine Maxwell arrests. From Victor Garcia. Washington Free Beacon senior investigative reporter Alana Goodman told Tucker Carlson Thursday that the circumstances of the arrest of Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's ex-girlfriend and alleged madam, were very bizarre. There were rumors of all different places that she was supposedly at, said Goodman, co-author of A Convenient Death, The Mysterious Demise of Jeffrey Epstein, who absolutely did not kill himself. I mean, some people claimed maybe Maxwell was in Paris. I mean, people had spotted her in Paris. There were claims about London. There were claims about, like, the Israeli. embassy, and things like that, Goodman reported. There's been some pretty wild speculation, but I think generally the idea was people assumed she was out of the country. Maxwell was arrested Thursday morning in the small town of Bradford, New Hampshire, where she had been residing in a $1 million estate. The 58-year-old appeared virtually before a federal magistrate in nearby Concord Thursday afternoon and waived her right to a detention hearing, clearing the way for her to transfer to New York. She was ordered held without bail on multiple sex abuse charges, including conspiracy to entice minors to engage in sexual acts. Goodman noted that because Maxwell holds citizenship in France, the country of her birth, she likely would not have been extradited from the European nation had she gone there. So it was very surprising that she is hiding out really under everyone's noses in the United States within driving distance of the U.S. Attorney's Office that is prosecuting her right now, Goodman said. Host Tucker Carlson asked Goodman if any of Epstein's high-profile friends should be worried now that Maxwell's in custody. I think a lot of the friends of Jeffrey Epstein, who were very relieved after he died, are probably pretty terrified at this moment, she answered, because I think Ghislaine Maxwell has every incentive to talk in this situation. I bet you she walks free with all the information that she can come out and drop. I hope not, but I bet you there's enough information for her and her lawyers to come out and say, hey, nope, you let this one go, and you can have all the information you want, because that's kind of how they go. Epstein is dead. She really doesn't have to worry about protecting him or anything else at this point, and I think that the Department of Justice also has more leeway to potentially kind of deal with her than it did with Epstein, because he was accused of being the kingpin in the situation. Earlier, Goodman noted that Maxwell, the daughter of the late British media magnate Robert Maxwell, had been accustomed to living in luxury. When Carlson asked if Maxwell was the kind of person who would take her own life, Goodman answered that she wasn't, but added that this is a lifestyle that she's not used to. Take her own life, you say? Because I'm pretty sure that Hiluigi Clintononi, her brand new bodyguard, is going to make sure that everything is taken care of and nobody gets close to this woman. I saw that meme floating around and I thought it was hilarious. I almost put it up so I could put it up on the screen, but I didn't really know how I wanted to do that. But yeah. So this is going to be the next thing I think that carries us up through the election year. One of the things that I noticed, of course, is the fact that Clinton body count was trending on Twitter again yesterday, and I had to put out the tweet that said, I wonder how long it's going to be before that hashtag is nuked, and a trend of Trump body count with 7 tweets in it is going to show up in its place on its side. Because they like to do that over on Twitter. Because orange man bad. Alright, let's keep going here. From KTLA5 out of Hollywood and Los Angeles. Little evidence protests fueled increase of coronavirus cases in U.S., public health experts say. From the Associated Press. There is little evidence that protests that erupted after George Floyd deaths caused a significant increase in U.S. coronavirus infections, according to public health experts. No, it was just those evil Republican states. If the protests had driven an explosion in cases, experts say the jumps would have started to become apparent within 2 weeks, and perhaps as early as 5 days. But that didn't happen in many cities, with largest protests including New York, Chicago, Minneapolis, and Washington, D.C. In what's considered the first systematic look at the questions, a team of economists determined that only 1 in 13 cities involved in the earliest wave of protests after Memorial Day had an increase that would fit the pattern. It was Phoenix, where experts say hospitalization surged after a decision by Governor Ducey to end Arizona's stay-at-home order on May 15th and eased restrictions on businesses. Arizona residents who were cooped up for 6 weeks flooded Phoenix area bar districts, ignoring social distancing guidelines. In many cities, the protests actually seemed to lead to a net increase in social distancing, as more people who did not protest decided to stay off the streets, said that study's lead author, Deval Dave of Bentley University. The large-scale protests can impact both the behavior and the protesters and the behavior of the non-protesters, said Dave. The paper was released last week by the National Bureau of Economic Research, but has not been published by a peer-reviewed journal. Drawing from the data compiled by Johns Hopkins University, the Associated Press reviewed trends in daily reported cases in 22 U.S. cities with protests It found post-protest increases in several cities, including Houston and Madison, Wisconsin, where experts say other factors were more likely than the main drivers. Health officials are still investigating the case surges in different states, and more data may come in, but experts believe that if the protests did have a big impact on cases, stronger signs would be apparent now. Floyd was killed on May 25th by a Minneapolis police officer who used his knee to pin Floyd's neck to the ground. The killing of a black man at the hands of a white officer touched off protests around the United States because it was filmed and conveniently put out into the world. Coincidentally, some states had begun to lift social distancing restrictions in late May. And once again, you do have to look around and point out the fact that, yes, there were protests in these big cities that maybe haven't seen some of the increases in cases, but people were coming from all around the country to protest in these places, not just in their home cities as well. If you're going to have people shoulder to shoulder, you can't say that social distancing is a requirement anymore, or that's the preliminary driver of the COVID-19. So, this study is bullshit, but I wanted to put it out there so you guys could see it. Alright, let's keep going here. From the Daily Wire, McCarthy to Pelosi condemn rioters who knock down Saint statue. Pelosi sneers, "I'm trying to save the world from coronavirus," from Hank Berrien. On Thursday, apparently bristling after House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy had said she should condemn protesters who knocked down the Golden Gate Park statue of St. Junipero Serra in her own district in San Francisco, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi snapped, "I'm trying to save the world from coronavirus," in remarks she reportedly made to the Washington Examiner. Pelosi continued, "I have no interest in McCarthy, who hasn't had the faintest idea of our dynamic in our district," the Examiner said. McCarthy had stated on Wednesday, given the fact that today is the feast day of St. Junipero Serra, her condemnation of mob violence would be especially timely. Today should be a day of celebration. Instead, we've recently seen a violent left-wing mob tear down the statue of St. Serra in Speaker Pelosi's district in San Francisco, California. Last week, in an interview with the Washington Post's Robert Costa, Pelosi stated statues of George Washington and Thomas Jefferson subject everything to scrutiny and make a decision. Costa asked, beyond the Confederate statues and paintings in the Capitol, which you've taken the lead on addressing in the Congress, should art depicting slave owners, including our nation's founding fathers, come down in this country? Pelosi rather initially seemed to negate the idea of removing statues and or monuments to the founding fathers, answering, "Are you talking about the patriarch of our country, George Washington? The author of our Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson? No, I don't think they should come down." After opining that paintings of members of Congress who served as House Speaker should come down, she continued, "I do think that in the Capitol, where we have statutes of the President of the Confederacy and the Vice President of the Confederacy, along with what they said about people in our country, I think they should come out, but it's not one issue of the time that they did own slaves. It's about what did they do about it?" Costa pressed, "So then to follow up, what's your message to some activists who say the Founding Fathers, there needs to be a reckoning of some sort, whether it's tearing down their images or just having a conversation? How should this nation handle the issue of slave owners in our Founding Fathers moving ahead?" Pelosi replied, "I would rather say, rather than tearing down and defacing, why don't we just have a review? Have a review in terms of let's take down safely so we're not hurting anybody when the statue comes down, or costing more money to get rid of it, or get rid of the defacing of something that might not, maybe shouldn't have happened." Oh, throw that doublespeak out, Nancy Pelosi. Everybody knows that what you're saying is bullshit, but just keep doublespeaking around it. Alright, let's keep going here. But yeah, Pelosi doesn't want to say tear it down, but she's definitely saying, I'm going to look the other way if you tear it down. Speaking of Congress, what will the next coronavirus relief bill look like? Congress mulls stimulus checks and back-to-work bonus. The Trump administration has said he does not intend to pass more relief measures until at least the beginning of July, which is here, by the way, from Megan Henney over at Fox Business. As a recent coronavirus resurgence threatens to derail U.S.'s economy, gradual recovery from the worst downturn since the Great Depression, the spike in cases has put added pressure on Congress to pass another round of fiscal aid. What the next stimulus bill would look like remains unclear, but certain measures that have gained traction over the past month include another stimulus check, additional aid for businesses and the unemployed, a back-to-work bonus, and liability protections for employers. Expect economic data like the Labor Department's June jobs report, which showed employers added a record 4.8 million jobs last month, and the employment rate fell to 11.1% to play a pivotal role in what legislation ultimately includes. The upbeat headline may embolden policymakers who don't want to provide more fiscal support for businesses and workers. Josh Wright, the chief economist at ICIMS and former Federal Reserve staffer, said on Thursday. White House officials maintained the need for additional aid following the release of the report. Close to 48 million Americans have lost their jobs as a result of the outbreak and subsequent economic lockdown, a rate unseen since the Great Depression. Still, the Trump administration has said he does not intend to pass more relief measures until at least the beginning of July. The Senate is not scheduled to return from its 2-week summer recess until July 20th, making it unlikely that a fourth relief package is passed before then. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin and the White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow both said Thursday that another direct cash payment is still on the table for the next aid package. Direct checks are probably going to be part of it as far as the president is concerned right now, Kudlow said. Over the past week, President Trump has vocalized his support for a second stimulus check, although it's unclear how much money Americans may receive when the checks could go out. I support actually larger numbers than the Democrats, but it's got to be done properly, Trump said during a Wednesday interview with Fox Business's Blake Berman. I want the money getting to people to be larger so they can spend it. I want the money to get there quickly and in a non-complicated fashion. The only proposal that's been passed by either chamber of Congress is the HEROES Act, the massive $3 trillion relief package put forward by House Democrats. Among other things, it includes a second one-time payment of up to $1,200 to some Americans that they want to vote for them. However, the legislation has stalled in the Republican-controlled Senate. And this is something I do want to touch on as well. Sorry, I had a hiccup there going on. Some Republicans have voiced concern that the extra unemployment benefits of $600 a week are actually discouraging workers from returning to their jobs. These sweetened benefits are set to expire at the end of July. Texas Rep. Kevin Brady, the top Republican on the House Ways and Means Committee, proposed a bill to give recipients of unemployment benefits who go back to their jobs a one-time lump payment of $1,200 or 2 weekly payments of $600. Where does that money come from, Kevin? Another proposal from Senator Rob Portman of Ohio would provide $450 weekly to laid-off Americans returning to work in addition to their wages. In both cases, the money would last through July 31st, the same date on which the extra $600 a week unemployment benefit expires. Have some more free shit, people. We'll worry about where the cost comes from later. The idea of back-to-work bonus has also gained traction among some White House officials who have voiced support for reforming unemployment benefits in the next aid package. We've got to reward individuals for coming back to work, Kudlow said recently. There will be some kind of reemployment bonus. We're not going to go to the $600. That's a disincentive to work. So, they want to spend more of your tax money that they don't even have yet at this point. And yeah, while I understand it's a good thing, and of course the back-to-work bonuses are a way of undoing the unemployment bonuses that are keeping people from seeking their jobs back or bitching out their employers for trying to hire them back. Where's the money come from? I don't understand this. But hey, money printer go burr, I guess, and we'll worry about the inflation later. All right, and we've got a second take on this here. From ABC News, Congress is on recess for 2 weeks. Here's where they leave off on COVID-19 relief. From Cheyenne Hazlitt and Allison Pecorin. While America's financial leaders may be split about whether the U.S. is on its way to economic recovery, both Democrats and Republicans largely agree that additional measures, including another stimulus package, is inevitable. It will have to wait until Congress returns from its 4th of July recess, a 2-week vacation that leaves legislation at a standstill. As the legislators depart, here's where things stand. One play by the Democrats moved off the Senate floor this week in an extension to the Paycheck Protection Program, which expired at the end of June under current law. PPP, which has still had $134 billion to give, even as the deadline neared, has undoubtedly been plagued with flaws, but rather than let the deadline for small businesses to apply for the program pass while Congress is on vacation, the extension means businesses can continue to apply through August. In the meantime, Republicans and Democrats have batted around ideas to fix the program, which has doled out more than $513 billion in forgivable loans, which means it'll be coming out of your paychecks, once again, since it was launched in April. Senate Small Business Committee Chairman Marco Rubio argued that many small businesses that need PPP have already gotten it and used it up. What we really need is to pass very soon is targeted help for those who need it, the second round of aid, he said. Other Republicans, like Senator John Thune, have supported Rubio's idea of less money but more targeted aid. It'd be driven by more losses, be needs-based and targeted as opposed to kind of just pushing money out, Thune said. As for the Democrats, Representative Nadia Velasquez, chair of the House Small Business Committee, demanded more data on who had gotten the first round of PPP loans before she would agree to letting anyone get a second loan. We know that 4 million businesses access the program, but what about the millions of minority and women-owned businesses that were not able to access the program, Velasquez said, revealing her intersectionalism during a House Financial Services Committee on Tuesday. No one should get a second loan unless we know most businesses that are struggling get a chance to get a loan, said Velasquez, a Democrat from New York. Actual changes to the program will be likely tied to the next stimulus package. So, yeah, they left off in kind of a weird place, but of course, now we're going to not see them for 2 weeks, which is... I'm so happy about that. The fact that we don't have to deal with these idiots for 2 weeks, even though we probably will. But yeah, they are trying to throw more money at you, and one of the things that I thought about, and this is the cynical part of my mind thinking about this, was that of course Trump wants to use this as a re-election bid because, I mean, he was gaining massive amounts of support in the black community before the George Floyd protests over the fact that he wanted to have his name out on this check. Who was it? 50 Cent had come out and said, yeah, he got his Trump bucks, and a lot of people were coming out and saying, well, I want to vote for Trump because he sent us this check. He sent us the free stuff. So now it's the race who can give the most free stuff. So we'll see what happens with this, but we won't see it for 2 more weeks. Which, once again, thank the gods and God, or whoever you pray to, that these people can't fuck anything up for the next 2 weeks. All right, let's keep going here. Minnesota Governor Walz asked Trump for disaster declaration after George Floyd riots trigger over $500 million in damages. Governor's office says it has fully mobilized the Minnesota National Guard for the first time since World War II. From Michael Ruiz. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has asked President Trump for a federal disaster declaration in his state due to extensive fire damage and other destruction in the unrest that followed George Floyd's death in Minneapolis police custody on Memorial Day. We need to come together to ensure Minnesotans who are victims of this destruction have access to critical infrastructure they need so they can go to the grocery store, pick up their medication, and live their lives, Walz said in a statement on Thursday. Together, we will rebuild. He also appealed to the Federal Emergency Management Agency for financial assistance to help cover the cost of debris removal, emergency measures, and damage to public buildings and equipment. We're asking our federal partners to step up and help our communities recover, he said. Walz's office estimates that the cost of damage to more than 1,500 businesses in Minneapolis and St. Paul at over $500 million. Fires caused at least $15 million in damages to the public infrastructure that Walz's office said it could be eligible to receive reimbursement from the federal government. We are committed to helping our communities rebuild, but we can't do this on our own, said Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan. While state, tribal, and local budgets are stretched thin by COVID-19, we need everyone to step up, including the federal government, to restore safety and critical infrastructure to our communities. Or, here's a suggestion for all these Minneapolis businesses that got damaged by all of this, that are in desperate need to rebuild and everything. You know, if you get in your car, you take everything that's still valuable and still worth something. and go west with your insurance money. You keep going west, you're going to hit a place called either North Dakota or South Dakota, or maybe Nebraska, depending on which level of the state you're on. You'll hit one of those places. Or if you come the other direction, you'll hit Wisconsin. Or if you go south, you'll hit Iowa. Don't go north. Don't go to Canada. They love maple syrup up there and other weird stuff. But yeah, you can move. You can go to another state if you really want to. A state that wasn't targeted by all of this. And I think that's what Walz is trying to avoid at this point. He's trying to avoid his taxpayers and his producers leaving to go to other states, which a lot of them have been talking about since the beginning. And I mean, if they go out from the Twin Cities and just out into Minnesota, they still have to deal with some of the repercussions out of all of this. But there's a good chance that a lot of them do leave Minnesota entirely and go to one of the surrounding states and finish up their businesses up there, finish up their lives and their working lives in places like that, take their tax dollars elsewhere. And I kind of think that, Walz he didn't handle this properly from the beginning. But once again, we're sitting at a point on a Democrat-run police force, in a Democrat-run city, in a Democrat-run state, in a Democrat-run county, where all of this happened. And he's asking the Republican president for extra money after blasting Republicans for being evil for 3 years. All right. But that's what I have on that here. Let's talk about football. From Yahoo Sports, Nike removes Redskin name apparel from website. Nike was one of the 3 companies to reportedly have received a letter recently from investors asking that it sever ties with the Washington Redskins unless the team changes its name. Another one of those companies, FedEx, responded Thursday by formally requesting that the team change its name. Nike and the third company, PepsiCo, have yet to respond, but there's a major omission from the Nike website that hints at what's to come. Nike, the NFL's official game day uniform supplier, is no longer allowing customers to purchase Washington apparel from its website. The Nike.com NFL page has every team listed on the left sidebar except Washington. Furthermore, its shopping filters also omit Washington, and its search function pulls up other teams but no results for Washington. It may be unclear when Nike made this change to its website. Adweek reported Wednesday that investment firms and shareholders worth a collective $620 billion sent letters to Nike, FedEx, and PepsiCo last Friday. In its request on Thursday, FedEx said, "We have communicated to the team in Washington our request that they change the team name." Oh, that's the end of the article. I thought there was more to that. So, yes, and if you go to the website for Nike.com for their NFL section, yes, all of the Redskins stuff is gone. And that's not the only part of this here. ESPN weighs in on this as well, and then we'll comment on it afterward, but let's see what ESPN has to say. Stadium sponsor FedEx asked Redskin to change nickname. FedEx, which has naming rights to the stadium in which the Washington Redskins play, made a request Thursday that the team change its nickname. "We have committed to the team in Washington a request that they change the team name," FedEx said in a statement obtained by ESPN. FedEx paid $205 million to the Redskins for naming rights to the stadium in 1998, a deal that runs through 2025. Frederick Smith, the chairman, CEO, and president of FedEx Corp., also owns a minority stake in the Redskins. Team owner Dan Snyder has been under renewed pressure to change the nickname, with protesters reportedly targeting the team sponsors, according to Adweek. FedEx, Nike, and PepsiCo each received letters signed by 87 investment firms and shareholders worth a combined $620 billion asking the companies to sever ties with the team unless it changed its controversial name, Adweek reported on Wednesday. On Thursday night, Nike appeared to remove all Redskins gear from the online store. The other 31 NFL teams were listed, and a search for Redskins came up with no results. Nike did not immediately respond to an email message seeking comment. In 2014, the Oneida tribe of Indians in Wisconsin asked FedEx shareholders to reconsider the naming rights of the agreement, but shareholders voted to stick with the company officials and continue their business relationship, according to the Memphis Business Journal. Why am I not surprised that it's the Oneida Nation? Familiar with them, of course, being from this state and spending time in that region of the state, but yeah, why am I not surprised by any of this? Snyder has been under more pressure in recent weeks to change the name given the social climate following the death of George Floyd in Minnesota. Native American leaders want Snyder to change the name, which the franchise has used since 1933. In the past, groups protested the name and tried to win in court. Those efforts failed. The Washington Post reported that Eleanor Holmes Norton, the District of Columbia's non-voting delegate to the House of Representatives, made it clear the nickname needed to be changed if the team wanted to return to the district. So, there's so much stupidity going on here. But, I mean, it's between the fans of the Redskins, the association itself, and of course, the investors at this point have gotten themselves to weigh in on it, but I think I'm done with the NFL after this. I really am. I've been saying this for weeks. Between Kaepernick coming back and an advisory role, between them trying to wedge him into a team that doesn't want him no matter what, and giving him basically carte blanche even though he sucks at playing football. Between all of this and everything else that's going on, I think I am done with the NFL. I don't think I can do it anymore. I can't do it. I really can't. If they're just going to wreck their brand into an SJW thing of bullshit, I might have to go back to watching racing again. Although I'd really love it if they open Fenway back up and we can go back to a Red Sox game, at least on the TV somewhere. I would buy cable at this point to watch the Red Sox and get the MLB package. Just so I have some sports going on because, I mean, without the sports, people are doing stupidity like this. And from the most part, other than the Oneidas, I don't think there are a lot of people that are really offended by the Redskins name. I haven't met a lot of them, but from things I've heard around the internet, I don't think there are a lot of people for it, or that are that offended by it. I don't know. Alright, let's keep going on here, because the military is under attack as well. Duckworth to hold up confirmations to ensure impeachment witnesses, Vindman's promotion isn't blocked. Duckworth said her blockade on senior nominees would exempt Army General Gustave Perna, nominated to lead the effort to develop a coronavirus vaccine. From Conor O'Brien, Senator Tammy Duckworth on Thursday announced that she'll hold up the confirmation of more than 1,000 military promotions until Defense Secretary Mark Esper confirms that the promotion of impeachment witness Army Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman won't be blocked. Duckworth, a retired Army officer who lost both legs because of injuries sustained in the Iraq War, said she intends to block 1,123 promotions until Esper confirms in writing that he did not or will not block the expected and deserved promotion of Vindman to colonel. The move by the Illinois Democrat raises the stakes amid reports that the White House could nix Vindman's promotion from a list of officers set to move up the ranks. Our military is supposed to be the ultimate meritocracy, Duckworth said. It is simply unprecedented and wrong for any commander-in-chief to meddle in the routine military matters at all. Pretty sure that's his job. Whether or not he has a personal vendetta against a soldier who did his patriotic duty and told the truth, a soldier who has been recommended for promotion by his superiors because of his performance, I won't just sit by and let it happen, and neither should any of my colleagues. Let's see here for a second. Alexander Vindman denied a direct order not to testify and wants a promotion because of it from the commander-in-chief. I don't know how he hasn't been court-martialed. But that's just me. So no, Vindman waived his, this isn't a union job either where you just get your promotion specified by the amount of time that you're in there. You do have to have performance that goes into this. Vindman waived his privilege to have his promotion when he defied a direct order from the commander-in-chief. So no, he shouldn't get the promotion. And Tammy Duckworth should be ashamed of holding up everybody else's just to try and get one guy in there, to try and muscle one guy in there for a promotion. No, that's not how any of this works. Vindman should continue to do his job, be a lieutenant colonel, and thank his god-lucky stars that he didn't get court-martialed over what he did in the impeachment hearing. He should thank everything that he prays to that he didn't get court-martialed for that, because he should have. So that's where that stands, but I wanted to make sure that everybody saw this and saw what was going on here. An interesting twist on this one here. The seat that Tammy Duckworth sits in is the one that is used to be held by famed anti-Trump fanatic over on Twitter, Joe Walsh, former presidential candidate. So yeah, there are a few things going on here, a few things in motion, but yeah, no, this is just for shame, Tammy Duckworth. For shame. Alright. Let's keep going here. Back to the NFL. Report, NFL to play Black National Anthem before season openers. The NFL will play Lift Every Voice and Sing, commonly known as the Black National Anthem, before every season opener. Jason Reed of ESPN reports. Stadiums will have someone perform Lift Every Voice and Sing before the Star-Spangled Banner, according to Reed. Some players, as well as Texans coach Bill O'Brien, have already committed to kneeling for the national anthem. The NFL is considering other measures to recognize victims of police brutality during the upcoming season, per Reed. The proposals include listing the names of victims on uniforms throughout helmet decals or jersey patches, an idea that would come in collaboration with the NFL Players Association. The NFL may also produce educational programs about victims, Reed adds. The league hopes it demonstrates a genuine commitment to the public, players, and coaches, and that players' voices continue to be heard, according to Reed's source. No more NFL for me. That's it. That was the end of it. Alright, so yeah, they're going to play a national anthem before a national anthem. And I didn't even know there was such a thing as a black national anthem. I didn't. I don't know where this is coming from, but this is... I mean, we have reached peak stupid in this country, I really have. Instead of trying to unite us, they are trying to segregate and divide us. And we eliminated segregation in the 60s. Jim Crow is over, but they're trying desperately to bring it back. So, yeah, no, I can't do this. I can't do NFL anymore, sorry. I don't care. I was a huge Packers fan, but I can't support the organization that puts them out. I'm done. Alright, let's keep going here. House panel votes to constrain Afghan drawdown, asks for assessment on incentives to attack U.S. troops. From Rebecca Keel. The House Armed Services Committee voted Wednesday to put roadblocks on President Trump's ability to withdraw troops from Afghanistan. Kids, we're going to be in the Middle East forever. Including requiring an assessment on whether any country has offered incentives for the Taliban to attack U.S. and coalition troops. The National Defense Authorization Act amendment from Representative Jason Crow would require several certifications before the U.S. military can further draw down in Afghanistan. The amendment was approved 45-11. Representative Liz Cheney, the number 3 House Republican, argued the amendment lays out a very responsible level of specificity. What is going to be required if we're going to in fact make decisions about troop levels based on conditions on the ground and based on what's required for our own security, not based on political timelines. And that is crucially important and I think our number one priority, she added. The amendment comes as Trump's withdrawal deal with the Taliban remains precarious as high violence levels persist in Afghanistan. The U.S. military has said it is down to 8,600 troops, in line with the agreement to get to that level by mid-July. But military officials have insisted any further drawdown will be based on conditions on the ground that are not yet met, even as Trump pushes for a speedy withdrawal, while the members of Congress insist that we need to continue to be world police, especially after many of them ran against Bush saying that we hate being world's police. The amendment also comes amid a firestorm in Washington over intelligence showing a Russian military unit offered bounties to Taliban-linked militias to kill U.S. and coalition service members in Afghanistan, which I still call is going to be bullshit. Among the amendment's requirements, an assessment of whether any state actors have provided or any incentives to the Taliban, their affiliates, or other foreign terrorist organizations for attacks against United States coalition or Afghan security forces or civilians in Afghanistan in the last 2 years, including the details of any attacks believed to have been connected with such incentives. Representative Seth Moulton framed the measure as particularly important in light of the revelations. There's been bipartisan criticism of a weak deal Trump got with the Taliban, a deal which is already falling apart, Moulton said. Now we learn that he's making this deal at the same time as there were bounties on the heads of American troops. Americans, oh my God, I just figured it out. The anti-Trumpers and the war machine in Washington were pissed that we were pulling out of Afghanistan, so they made up the Afghan bounty story as a reason to block the withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan. Oh my God, I just figured it out. And there are a couple sides of that, of course. Of course, the war machine in Washington wants us to stay in the Middle East forever because that's what we do, is we just stay in the Middle East forever and stay there and fight endless wars and antagonize all of our enemies. Yeah, we just do that forever. But the other side of it is I don't think they can allow the drawdown to happen under Trump because that was a campaign promise. It was another one that he could fulfill. It just makes sense now. I'm going to go full Dale Gribble on this if I keep reading this article. Crow's amendment would block funding to dip below 8,000 troops and then again to below 4,000 troops unless the administration certifies that doing so would not compromise the U.S. counterterrorism mission in Afghanistan, not increase risk for U.S. personnel there, be done with consultation with allies, and is in the best interest of the United States. Oh my God, I just figured this out. My whole world just shattered right there. Not really, because I had no trust in the government anyway, but alright. But I'm not going to keep reading this because I will go full Dale Gribble on this if I keep going, but let's keep going off of this. Reports claim Trump sidelining son-in-law Kushner following his instincts, from Tim Pierce. President Trump reportedly regrets taking as much advice as he has from his son-in-law and senior advisor Jared Kushner, Axios reports. Moving forward, the president is going to rely less on Kushner's advice and more on instinct. Okay. Placing too much weight on Kushner's suggestion has caused damage to Trump politically, the president believes, according to Axios. Among his regrets, Trump now thinks he should never have allowed Kushner to spend time and political capital on criminal justice reform, an issue that Trump did not run on and that voters did not expressly support for. White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany pushed back against the Axios report. President Trump is very proud of the historic work that he's done to benefit all communities. The First Step Act made historic strides toward rectifying racial disparities in sentencing, while his executive order to secure America's streets works with our nation's heroic police officers to ensure that we have safe policing and safe communities, McEnany said. Kushner is one of the most influential people working in the administration besides the president himself. Trump has tapped Kushner to lead on many different initiatives such as trade negotiations with Mexico and dispensing supplies from the national stockpile amid the coronavirus. Kushner was a key player in what has become the longest government shutdown in U.S. history, beginning on December 21, 2018 and lasting 35 days. Kushner has been a controversial figure in the White House, blamed for many of the administration's missteps by people who tend to support Trump. Fox News host Tucker Carlson offered a stinging critique of the president's son-in-law on June 1st episode of the popular cable host evening show, according to Politico. Carlson held Kushner, along with Trump, responsible for the administration's slow response to recent violent protests, as well as the administration's lack of ability to curb the violence. Even in Washington, D.C., violent protests took place blocks from the White House, and thieves smashed windows and looted stores. Carlson said that Kushner, as well as other White House officials, don't seem to understand the gravity of the movement. The Fox host also said that Kushner took the president's voters for granted. No one has more contempt for Donald Trump's voters than Jared Kushner does, Carlson said. Despite criticisms, Trump has largely stood by Kushner if the relationship is souring. However, the chance for police reform may sour with it. Trump has played Kushner in charge of the White House's stance on police reform, thought the president himself is more in favor of taking a strong pro-police position. We want to make sure we don't have any bad actors in there. And sometimes you'll see horrible things like we witnessed recently. But 99.9%, but let's go with 99 of them, are great people, the best people. They've done jobs that are record-setting, Trump said in a meeting with law enforcement in early June. Yeah, I've never been a real big fan of Kushner being in there just from the fact that it's, what's the word I'm looking for? Nepotistic, that's the word I'm looking for. Just from the nepotistic standpoint, I've never been a fan of Kushner being in there, but, he's kind of a jerk. I don't really care for him that much. And he is kind of a statist as well, so, of course, I'd rather see federalism reign and people get their government from their localities rather than the federal government, and Kushner kind of stands against that, but sort of all of Washington at this point. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's time for Kushner to go. I really do. Throw someone else on the police reform package. You've got plenty of people that want to come up and work in the administration. All right, let's keep going. And we're going to talk just a bit about, we're going to do a couple things on what to expect for Independence Day. Then I've got a couple general interest stories, and then we're going to read the names of everybody who chatted in the live chat. So if you want to get your name in there and you haven't chatted yet, throw those stickers up and get in there, and go out and invite people in there as well. Get some more people in here so we can make me read for longer, I guess. But yeah, get everybody in here so we can get everybody's names in and get some new people in as well. So invite a friend, invite 10. Let's keep going here from Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Protests set for Metro Atlanta on Independence Day. From Jeremy Redmond. Kenya Farley typically spends Independence Day with her family at her aunt's house in Atlanta, playing card games, Uno and spades, listening to music, and barbecuing. This year's 4th of July holiday will be a vastly different experience for her and many other Americans as the nation simultaneously grapples with the deadly coronavirus pandemic and renewed calls for racial justice. Marching demonstrators will take the place of marching bands. Protests will replace parades. Fiery speeches will fill in for fireworks. On Saturday evening, Farley will join at a rally in Centennial Olympic Park, which canceled its annual fireworks celebration because of the coronavirus outbreak. The Miller Grove High School graduate is calling for criminal justice reforms following killings of black Americans, including George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and Rayshard Brooks. Other demonstrations are planned Saturday for elsewhere in Atlanta, Lawrenceville, and Roswell. On July 4, 1776, the Second Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence, announcing the colony's separation from Great Britain. Drafted by Thomas Jefferson, the document says, in part, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, but not everyone is treated equally in America," Farley said. So she will be busy on Saturday. It is more than just a day of rest, Farley, 21, who's studying social work at Georgia State University, said of Independence Day. It is also a day to bring awareness surrounding the injustices and the fact that not everyone is ultimately free, which is the whole point of the holiday. The protests have rippled across the Atlanta region in the wake of George Floyd's killing in Minneapolis have been overwhelmingly lawful and peaceful so far, until they burn the Wendy's down. Organizers of this weekend's demonstration say they will intend to keep it that way. Tiffany Roberts will be ready just in case, working for the Southern Center of Human Rights. She has helped coordinate pro bono attorneys for protesters charged with disorderly conduct and other offenses, which means that they are expecting riots to break out. When I was a kid, my mother would have me read The Slave is 4th of July by Frederick Douglass, said Roberts, an attorney who teaches our law at Georgia State University. It is important for Americans to be reminded of the fact that we have not lived up to the promise of our founding documents. Farley will attend the Rally for Reparations, an event organized by Atlanta organization that calls itself the Black Agenda Group. Brother Russell Trotter, 40, the group's co-founder, said reparations mean more than payments. They also refer to improving health care, housing, education, and economic development for African Americans, he said. The tipping point for Trotter came when he saw the video of Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin, who was white, pinning George Floyd to the ground with his knee on the neck for nearly 9 minutes. Floyd's death has been ruled a homicide, and Chauvin, since fired, faces second-degree murder charges and manslaughter charges. So yeah, they're absolutely going to go riot tomorrow, and do keep that in mind as you go out for your celebrations. There are going to be riots and everything else that go along with this. So be aware. Be aware of your surroundings, know what's happening, and know what could happen. And know your ways out if you need to. Alright. And one more on the president's celebration. From Fox News, what to know about Independence Day celebrations at Mount Rushmore in Washington, D.C. From Morgan Phillips. President Trump will head to South Dakota Friday for an Independence Day celebration at Mount Rushmore, the first president to do so since H.W. in 1991. Then on Saturday, he'll head back to Washington, D.C. for a celebration on the National Mall. Here's what to know about the 4th of July celebrations. Pyrotechnics displays at the National Park have been banned for the past decade due to concerns about wildfires and groundwater pollution, but the president has been pushing to bring them back. What can burn? It's stone, Trump asked in January. Yeah, that was probably not a good way to argue against your intelligence detractors. The National Park Service told Forbes it has robust, highly trained, and skilled fire response services at the ready, and that an incident management team will ensure conditions are safe before making the final decision on fireworks. There will be 7,500 seats available to watch the display before the 60-foot stone presidential carvings, and 125,000 have applied to receive tickets. I wonder if AOC and K-pop is behind this, according to Sioux Falls Argus Leader. Just as with the president's rally, some have displayed concerns over COVID-19. Governor Kristi Noem said Fox News this week, in South Dakota, we've told people to focus on personal responsibility. We told those folks that have concerns that they can stay home, she added. Face masks will be offered to those who want them. South Dakota has the 11th lowest coronavirus infection rate in the country, and the biggest concentration of the states at the opposite end of the state in Sioux Falls, nearly 300 miles away. However, tickets have been requested by people from all over the country, including states which are seeing a spike, such as California, Texas, and Florida. If you don't have a ticket, you can live stream the celebration on the South Dakota Department of Tourism's website. In addition to fireworks, Noem and Trump will give remarks. There will be presentations of Native American culture, as well as performances by the U.S. Air Force Academy Band and military flyovers. Festivities will begin at 4 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time on Friday, July 3rd. Fireworks are scheduled for 9 p.m. So that will be later today. In Washington, D.C., one of the largest fireworks displays ever is expected. Back in D.C., a celebration on the National Mall will feature one of the largest fireworks displays ever. As many as 300,000 face masks will be given away to those who want them. A mile-long firing of 10,000 fireworks is expected, the largest in recent memory, Interior Secretary David Bernhardt said in a statement. Bernhardt said the fireworks display, which will begin around 9 p.m. Eastern Time and last for approximately 35 minutes, will be visible throughout D.C. and Northern Virginia, including public locations such as Anacostia Park, Meridian Hills, and the George Washington Memorial Parkway. The department also said that more than 800 acres of the National Mall and Memorial Parks would be accessible for viewing the flyovers and the fireworks, including the Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool, Thomas Jefferson Memorial, World War II Memorial, East Potomac River, Washington Monument Grounds, and National Mall Grounds. The President and First Lady Melania Trump are also expected to participate in the celebration, hosting a 2020 Salute to America on the South Lawn of the White House on Saturday, July 4th, which will be streamed on the White House website. And then they go on with the cost, of course, and Muriel Bowser has some concerns, but yes, this is all going to be going off without a hitch, and you can go ahead and live stream this from the White House website, and this is going to be good. I think this is going to be a good uniting moment, but of course people are going to run and try and divide it as well. So we will watch this. All right, one more here from the Daily Wire. Photographer sues to stop Virginia from fining him for expressing Christian marriage beliefs on business website. From Hank Berrien. On Tuesday, a photographer in Virginia filed suit against the Virginia Attorney General and the director of the Virginia Division of Human Rights and Fair Housing to challenge a law that took effect Wednesday that forbids him from publicly explaining on his studio's own website the religious reasons why he will only celebrate a wedding ceremony between a man and a woman. Alliance Defending Freedom, which is representing photographer Chris Herring, explains that the state of Virginia would consider Herring offering an explanation delineating his religious beliefs discriminatory on the basis of sexual orientation, adding, "The new law threatens initial fines of up to 50 grand and then up to 100 grand per additional violation, along with court orders that could force Herring to create photographs and blogs against his conscience if he wants to stay in business." ADF states in the lawsuit, like most other artists, Chris creates photographs for anyone no matter who they are. He just cannot create some content for anyone no matter who they are, whether that content that be content promoting pollution, pornography, or certain views about marriage. It's this last editorial judgment, though, that Virginia finds objectionable, threatening to fine Chris into bankruptcy for not creating photographs and blog posts he objects to. ADF adds, but Virginia interprets this law to force Chris to do more than serve LGBT clients, which Chris already does. Virginia instead requires that Chris promote content he disagrees with, to create and convey photographs and blogs celebrating same-sex weddings because he does so for weddings between a man and a woman. The law even makes it illegal for Chris to hold a policy of photographing and blogging about weddings only between a man and a woman, or to post internet statements explaining his religious reasons for only creating wedding content. So, I can't believe this is even an argument at this point. If you don't like the guy's views, don't go to him. It's as simple as that. But no, it's just like the cake baker. We have people out there that are going out and seeking out specifically these Christians in order to try and run them out of business for the simple sin of being Christian. Just go to another photographer. That's the easiest way to do this. And then everyone can get on with their lives. And yes, these people will suffer financially if you don't go to them. But they don't want to work with you. You don't want to work with somebody that's bigoted, as per your definition. I don't think this guy's bigoted. But you don't want to work with somebody like that, so why force his morality? Let him flaunt his morality out in the open. And let people decide whether they want to associate with him or not. I would associate with the guy. But I think one of the biggest problems with this, of course, is the fact that the people that are going to this business are worried that people will make the right decision. And they will go to this guy because they like what he has to say. Alright, last one here. And then we'll get on to the names of everyone who chatted in the live chat throughout the week. From Bethesda's website itself. Kilter Films teams up with Amazon Studios to develop series based on Fallout. No author given. Amazon Studios has licensed the rights to the worldwide best-selling game franchise Fallout, with acclaimed producers Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy's Kilter Films attached to produce the project, currently in development with a series commitment. Fallout is one of the greatest game series of all times, except 76. Oh, excuse me, I had something in my throat there. Each chapter of this insanely imaginative story has cost us countless hours we could have spent with family and friends, so we're incredibly excited to partner with Todd Howard and the rest of the brilliant lunatics at Bethesda to bring this massively subversive and darkly funny universe to life with Amazon Studios, said Lisa Joy and Jonathan Nolan, Kilter Films. Over the last decade, we've looked at many ways to bring Fallout to the screen, said Todd Howard, executive producer at Bethesda Game Studios, but it was clear from the moment I first spoke with Jonah and Lisa a few years ago that they and the team at Kilter were the ones to do it right. We're enormous fans of their work and couldn't be more excited to work with them and Amazon Studios. Fallout is an iconic global franchise with legions of fans worldwide and a rich, deeply compelling storyline that powers it. And Jonah and Lisa are the perfect storytellers to bring the series to life, said Albert Cheng, COO and co-head of television, Amazon Studios. We're thrilled to join with Bethesda to bring Fallout to television. The world of Fallout is one where the future envisioned by Americans in the late 1940s explodes upon itself through nuclear war in 2077. The magic of Fallout world is the harshness of the wasteland set against the previous generation's utopian idea of a better world through nuclear energy. It is serious and harsh in tone, yet sprinkled with moments of ironic humor and B-movie nuclear fantasies. Fallout games have achieved record-setting sales and received hundreds of awards, including dozens of Game of the Year awards, while its mobile game, Fallout Shelter, which is actually quite a bit of fun. I get lost in that game. I can't get anything else done if I play Fallout Shelter. That's the only reason I don't play it. has been downloaded more than 170 million times. Fallout is from Amazon Studios and Kilter Films in association with Bethesda Games Studios and Bethesda Softworks, with executive producers Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy, and Athena Wickman for Kilter Films, Todd Hauer for Bethesda Games Studios, and James Altman for Bethesda Softworks. Though Kilter Films overall deal with Amazon, they are currently in pre-production on the techno-thriller drama The Peripheral, based on William Gibson novel, which follows a woman in a near-future America in which technology has started to subtly alter society. Kilter Films also produces HBO's Westworld, which just wrapped up its 3rd season and was recently picked up for a 4th season. The series has amassed 43 Emmy nominations along with DGA, WGA, PGA, and SAG Awards nominations. Kilter has also produced interactive transmedia marketing for its series, including a Westworld Super Bowl spot directed by Nolan. Okay, my biggest thing for this, and I say this to you Bethesda, and I say this to you Kilter Films, don't fuck this up. You have a franchise that up until 76 was beloved by millions and people would climb over themselves to get copies of your game. You have one of the top franchises in history. Don't fuck it up. And I say this lovingly, but knowing full well what happened to Hitman, what happened to Assassin's Creed, and what happened to Super Mario Brothers when they tried to bring them to the film. So, please. And now, the fact that they're doing this as a series, though, I have some faith in because, I mean, the Super Mario Brothers Super Show had really nothing to do with Super Mario Brothers, but it was fun and entertaining. It does seem that for some point, TV adaptations seem to be a little bit better, but yeah, my big thing is just don't fuck this up, alright? And I will probably watch this because I have Amazon Prime, and I'm very interested to see what comes out of this. Alright, that is it. That's what we have. So now it's time to read the names of everybody who chatted in the live chat here. So we will start with what happened today, and we will work backwards here. We've got Ron Helton, Elephantman 007 coming in here. Thanks for checking us out today. Who else do we have here? I thought I saw some Twitch stuff in here. Let's see. Dabba Cannabis 420, thanks for coming in and checking us out. Let's see. What else do we have? Sully Blue is in here. Thanks for checking us out, Sully Blue. Looks like people are looking at MLB TV. Maybe they'll pay money for that. Devil Dog 9595, that's a new name in here. Thanks for coming in and checking us out. And it looks like that's everybody for the day. So I'll check at the bottom and see if anybody else popped in at the end here. And then we'll get the notebook out and see what we've got going on. Nope, that's going to be it for the day. So thanks everybody for today. Let's see what happened earlier on in the week. On Thursday, we had Ron Helton, Dabba Cannabis 420, XBY Nacho, who's also a new name. Thanks for coming in and checking us out over on Twitch. And Aviation Arms, who has been here before and dropped off and is coming again. So thanks for checking us out. On Wednesday was a slow day, and we only had Ron that day. But thanks for at least coming in and checking out as well. You're always appreciated. On Tuesday, we had Sully Blue, Unsatiable 1776, who is going to be joining your ranks over on D-Live here coming up. Sully Blue, Sergeant Peterson, Aviation Arms again, Seawall 728 rather. Yusef Akaya, who's been here before, but very rarely, but thanks for coming and checking us out. And the Chill Anarchist, and I do want to take some time and thank everybody for pointing out Voldemort's name for me in the live chat as well, because I got lost on that. And on Monday, we had Ron Helton, Elephant Man, Sully Blue, Bobby Joe, Seawall 728, Red Gray Blue is a new name. Thanks for coming and checking us out. Rye 87, another new name. Thanks for coming and checking us out. And Unsatiable 1776. And that's everybody. So thanks for coming and checking us out for the week. We'll be back here Monday with more news. There will be no Ed Talk this weekend, but I'm going to be doing some work around the channel just to try and get the last things finalized for the new show. And make sure you come by and check us out on Monday night for the new show that I have on this channel, the Red and Ed Show. I will be looking forward to seeing everybody there and looking forward to the conversations, and we will read live chat between topics. So thanks everybody for coming and checking us out, and we will see you next week. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.